Hello, everyone. We're back on the circuit again doing the history of soccer here in Toronto, of the Caribbean community. And we have a gentleman here. This gentleman is in the realm of the football part of the sport. So without further ado, I'll ask him to introduce himself and give us a little of his background.
Hi, afternoon, Alvin. Afternoon to all the viewers who will be tuning in this afternoon. My name is Warren Barrett. I'm the former captain and goalkeeper of the Jamaican national football team known as the Reggae Boyz, and the first English-speaking Caribbean country to participate in a World Cup that we did in France in 1998.
How did you initially start as a goalkeeper, or how did that work for you?
I, I ventured between both. As a young man, I've always told people it was a God-given ability. I remember even as a little boy, probably age 6, 7. There's another, for those who are familiar with Montego Bay, there's another football ground they call the UDC. And I remember in the probably the late 70s, not my brother and I and friends, we would go to the ground and we would kick around the ball. But even then, I remember I would go in goal. And there was a certain legend of Jamaica's football, Paul Davis, who was the person who was kicking the balls to me in the goal. So ever since I was small, I had the ability to keep goal. But as you know, as a young man, I guess you wanted to explore what it is like to play on field as well. So I ventured between both. I played in goal sometimes, and then sometime I'd play as a striker for the school team, and that continued until third form in high school. I remember when we were in second form and we were having our annual class competition. I was in my class was 8-5 and we were playing against 8-1. Now 8-1 had a number of the boys who played on the under 14 team that year. So they were a star-studded team, if you want to call it that. And I had a big game against them. We lost 1-0 at the end of the day, but I really kept well. And fortunately for me, the under 14 coach for the following year, who was also our Spanish teacher, Mr. Clyde Morris, he was in attendance at that game. And he was surprised. And after the game, he called me and he said, "Hi, Warren, I didn't know you were such a good goalkeeper." He says, "You need to come for the under 14 team and try out for the goalkeeping position." I said, "Okay, sir, I will." And then in third farm, under 14 training, I went, I made the team. And I think that is when I really started to take goalkeeping a lot more seriously. I stopped basically from third farm playing out on field. I just basically took the goalkeeping, as I said, goalkeeping position more seriously. And then from then I started.
You know, Canada now has qualified after 36 years. And just briefly, if you had to send some sort of advice to some of these young guys that go in there, if you could recap your experience, I know you're in the net, all right, but overall.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. As you know, there's no easy games in football, especially these days. As we've come to realize, even teams that outpossess their opponents, they sometimes end up losing. Going to a World Cup is special, and for Canada since 1986, I remember the qualifying game that they defeated us, and when they qualified, officially I spoke to Atiba Hutchinson after the game, and I basically told him that couldn't have happened to a much better and loyal professional than him. I remember Atiba he has been playing for Canada for years. And I'd say probably this is his swan song. And for him to be part of this team that qualified, I was so happy for him. And it's just for them to go out and just to have fun, enjoy the experience. I know Canada have a golden generation of players right now. I think the major difference is with our team in 1998, the majority of our team were local based Jamaicans who played our football for clubs locally. But the difference with this Canadian national team is that they have players playing all over the globe. So they have a fantastic group. When you look at Davids, you look at Davies, who is in Bayern Munich. I mean, they're doing really, really well for themselves. So I think they can spring some surprises if they really work on their whatever plans that the coach might be putting in place for each game and to execute. As I said, possession is something that you don't have to have a lot of the ball to win games. It's just for you to be organized defensively, to keep your shape, keep switched on. And as you know, with a little bit of fortune, you can put away at least one chance and defend for the rest of the game. And I think there'll be a lot of surprises in this World Cup. It won't be as straightforward as some people might think. And because of that, I think Canada really, really do have a good chance, I think, of even progressing from the round. And I know a lot of people might be saying otherwise. The fact that they're a small country in terms of being a soccer power. But I mean, when you have quality players, then anything is possible, and it's what you do on the day that counts. It's not what people say are in the past. It's what you do on the day during that 90 minutes plus that counts.
Okay, so now we know what type of person, the experience we have in Warren here. And now we had the honor of having him come to Toronto. Now, coming to Toronto, you realize now that even CONCACAF is hosting some of the Jamaica, the Reggae Boyz game in Toronto here. Are you aware Toronto is regarded as the #1 city for the diaspora of Jamaica?
Well, no, I haven't done my research on that, but I know a little about the Caribana festival that they normally put on there. I remember we participated in, I think, 1995.
Were you part of that Caribana Cup team, Jamaica team that played Trinidad and Tobago and Canada?
Oh yes, I was. That was in 1995.
If you're noticing a difference in the scene, we have relocated because the lighting was fading down in Jamaica. How was that experience for you on I guess that is the first days before the soccer salute. So how was that experience for you, and how did you get contact and know about it?
Well, I guess that's the astuteness of our chief in staff at the time, Captain Horace Boyle. As you know him, he has contacts all across the globe. So I'm sure he was integral in getting the national team to participate, and the fact that the Reggae Boyz brand was getting renowned across the world. And we wanted our Caribbean neighbors as well as Jamaicans who resided in Toronto to get a taste of the brand, especially before the crucial World Cup qualification campaign began. And we rolled into Toronto. We were pretty confident. I remember, I think we were invited out one occasion by the Jamaican diaspora. I remember a limo came to pick us up. Myself, Theodore, I think Ian Goodison, Ricardo Gardner, Durant Brown were in that car. We opened the top and we were driving around with, half of everybody outside.
You light up like a little kid right now, So
yeah, so we lived some of the life of the entertainers and the big rollers, for that period. I thought we tied with Canada, and we beat Trinidad 1-0. And as you know, that is always a derby with Trinidad. And anytime we beat Trinidad, then the entire Jamaican community, whether home or abroad, is satisfied. And so it was great to finish that tour with a victory. And it also was a morale boosting victory for us as well. Did
it help in your program going in because you were successful in qualifying for 1998? So in your mind now, in hindsight, did that help towards that? And then I'll ask you about the Toronto and how you thought of Toronto then, and if that was your first experience in Toronto.
Well, yes, that was beating Trinidad was crucial leading to the build-up. Why I said that, I remember in January of 1995, we call it the historical tour. That was the first time any Jamaica national team was going to Brazil. We were there for a month in camp, and we were preparing rigorously, arduously, and we played, I think, more than 15 games. Looking back now, I can see why coach really wanted us to go through such a process, because the qualification process is not easy. As you know, you have to take flights. Sometimes there are delays. Uh, you go to countries, they might hold you up for no reason in the custom or immigration zone. I remember that happened in Costa Rica. But thankfully, we spoke about it before we left. He said, listen, guys, international football is a war. Countries will play mind games. They will do things to try and get to disturb you, to disturb your mental focus. And I don't know the reason why, but we were held up in San Jose in the airport, and we made light work of it. I mean, some players started to entertain themselves, singing, DJing, played cards, running practical jokes, etc. So we didn't let that perturb us. So I think, looking back, that's why we went through such an arduous deal in Brazil, and it really helped us, as I said, when we started the Road to France campaign. Our first game was in Suriname, in the jungle. Theodore Tapper Whitmore scored the only goal in that game. We won 1-0, and that was the start of great things that were to come.
How did you get involved in the soccer salute, and what did it mean to you?
A friend, Marcus, he was integral in getting myself involved. He reached out to me saying that he wanted to put on a game against Jamaica Invitational, against a Trinidad and Tobago Invitational. And as you know, that is any Trinidad Jamaica game is going to be an epic affair. The history and the rivalry between both countries. So I told him I was interested. I spoke to Theodore. He was interested as well. And then I had to be the liaison person to try and get a few other players based in Jamaica who were former national players who were still competing at a high level. And I remember I spoke to Daniel Ricketts, who is the brother of legendary MLS goalkeeper Donovan Ricketts. Garth Peterkin, very, very close friend of mine who resides in Fort Lauderdale. He was also part of the qualifying campaign for the World Cup in France in 1998. And a few other players. And them in through the travel agent. We got back all passports, all players got the visiting visas, and we were able to obtain the tickets. And off we went to Toronto in the cool. I think it was in August as well, so it was cool. The conditions were nice. The conditions were good for playing football, because it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. It was just the right temperature. And I remember looking back at even the photos that you sent me, and I didn't realize that there were so many spectators out in their numbers. I think it rained that day as well. Really came out in their numbers. I didn't take notice of that because I was just concentrating on playing the game and putting on a good performance for the people, not only the Jamaicans, but also other Caribbean nationals that were. Over the years, I've visited Canada, I think at least 6 or 7 times. I have a number of friends there. As you know, I'm from Montego in Jamaica, so there are not a lot of Montegonians who reside in Toronto. I have schoolmates who reside in Toronto. My sister lives in Kingston, Ontario. When I visit and she comes to visit me in Toronto. So it's always a joyous moment for me, and not only for me, but also the rest of the team, to really come into a beautiful city as Toronto and basically to try and perform as best as we can when we were players. Now, as a member of the technical staff, even though we lost at the last visit, it was good to be back. I met up with a schoolmate of mine who I had not seen for over 20 years. So it's always good when I get to see Toronto. Yeah. We had a number of quality players, as you know, Theodore himself, Walter Boyd, Onandi Lowe, big, powerful, strong striker who was strong in the air, lethal with his left foot. Ian Pepe Goodison, who was a tower of strength at the back. Regularly told me in training that he doesn't like to mark Walter Boyd and Onandi Lowe because they don't move enough off the ball. He loves strikers who keeps him active, who makes a lot of runs. These are the players he wants to mark. I remember he took delight in marking Dwight York in a qualification game, I think, for the 2006 World Cup in the National Stadium. I was at that game, and man, he had me in stitches because that is Pepe. Give him the best strikers around the world, and you'll get a grand game for him.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have to relocate because now it's raining in Jamaica, and you might find a difference in the pitch of his voice. So, but we got to take the information when we can get it. So, seeing that you had the experience of France, the FIFA World Cup in France, based on your experience, what they could look forward to,
So it's just for them to believe in their abilities, in their qualities, trust the coach and the staff and the plans that they will want to put in place. And hopefully they can execute on game day, because the important thing is not what people say, it's not who you're facing. The most important thing is what you do during the 90 plus minutes that counts.
So I want to thank you again for giving me the time, the information. You stay safe.
I thank you all with any time. God bless.
All right. Okay. All right.